When it comes to partnerships, be careful. Tread lightly, tread softly, tread carefully, and make sure that you start with the most important question, why?
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
And a warm welcome back to the program, everyone. Dustin Harris, hanging out once again with you in the podcast chair. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me on the most listened to appraisal-related podcast in the world. Today, I want to talk about a question that comes up frequently. Well, that's not true. Come on, Dustin, let's be honest. It comes up infrequently, but it does come up in coaching. People reach out to me. It comes up in my own business, and it has to do with partnerships. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by ANow Software. ANow, of course, is the software that I use each and every day. You should be as well. ANow.com. One more time, ANOW.com. All right, folks, we're going to talk about partnerships. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever thought about a partnership? Have you ever been approached by possibly another appraiser that works in your office or maybe doesn't work in your office and says, hey, what do you think about partnering up? What do you think about me becoming a partial owner? Folks, it is something that if it has not happened in the past, at least if you are a growing business, now if you're a single person entity, maybe it will never come up in your life. But if you are growing, if you are hiring appraisers, if you are establishing a true appraisal business, a true appraisal firm, I guarantee if it has not happened already, it will happen. Someone will approach you and ask you about a partnership. And folks, let me just say, it will sound tempting. To share the burden of business ownership is not a bad thing, right? That is one of the pros of a partnership. And one of the cons, having to share the revenue, might be outweighed by the burnout that you might feel, the overwhelm that you might feel, this excitement of something new. But I would caution you. On a couple of things, and I will just be completely blunt with you in this minisode today. And when I am approached by coaching clients, though I am open, it is not something that I'm high on. It's not something that I am excited about. Show me how it's going to benefit you, and then I'm all ears. But I'll tell you, most of the time when I'm coaching and it gets brought up, as we get into the details, and by the way, this is not a question that can be answered on the surface. If someone comes to me and says, Dustin, coach, I'm thinking about doing a partnership, my immediate answer is not run. My immediate answer is let's talk about it. Let's get into the details. Tell me what you're thinking. Because number one, there's a lot of different partnerships out there. Legally, financially, reality. And by the way, those are three separate things. Legality is one thing. How you split the finances can be something completely different. And by the way, what sounds good now may not be a long-term solution. I want to stress that. That's where partnerships fall apart most often. It's not on the legality side. It's not on the reality side, although that's related obviously to the financial side. So let's talk through what this means. First of all, why? And I guess that's the question on the table that is most important when someone approaches you about a partnership. Again, I'm not against partnerships. Well, okay, maybe I am. I'm not against a partnership if it's done correctly. Let's put it that way. But I've seen so many cases, myself included, by the way. I come into this with a biased, tainted outlook because I've been in a partnership that was not fair. I've been in a partnership that sounded good on the surface and didn't end up good in reality. And I've seen it happen to my appraiser friends as well, where you get into a situation that feels good and feels long-term, but it just doesn't last because it wasn't set up properly. So let's talk about things a little bit. First of all, the question on the table, the biggest question you've got to ask is why? Well, I got this guy and he's an appraiser and he wants to be a business owner and I'm an appraiser and I want to be a business owner. So we just thought we'd lock arms and we'd get this thing done. Well, okay. Again, why? Let's look long term. So much of what we do as business owners seems like the right thing to do at the right time. I see this often, and it's not just with partnerships, it's with everything. We see a new idea, a new product, a new territory, a new person, a new individual that comes into our business, and we think, wow, opportunity, right? And we're wired for that. That's why we're successful as entrepreneurs. We're wired to see and get excited about opportunities. Now, if you're like me, you can get distracted, squirrel. But the point is entrepreneurs are successful because they see and take advantage of opportunities. But the caution that I would give you is when it comes to partnerships, be careful. Tread lightly, tread softly, tread carefully, and make sure that you start with the most important question, why? If the why is, I don't know, it just seems right, folks, that's not a good enough why. So that's step number 1. But step number 2, 3, and 4 is to decide how to set this up legally, financially, and in reality. Okay, I want to talk about that when we get back from the break, but first I want to pause here. Remind you, of course, that we are sponsored by a great company, a company that I use pretty much every day, maybe not on the weekends, but Monday through Friday, I am in ANOW. My team is in ANOW. We're keeping track of everything that's going on in our office, and as a business owner, folks, I can keep track so easily. Let's use that word instead of the wrong version of that word. So easily with ANOW software. I simply need to pull it up on my phone, my tablet, my laptop, my desktop. It doesn't matter. Wherever I have an internet connection, within seconds. That is not an exaggeration. I can know exactly where I'm at with my business. It is awesome. ANOW.com is where you find out more. ANOW.com. All right. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Talking about partnerships, and they're not always bad, but here's what I find happens too often. An individual, a business owner, gets into a partnership, signs over 50% of the revenue, and frankly, 50% of the work doesn't get done by the other partner. It just doesn't. And frankly, sometimes 50% of the ideas don't even happen with the other partner. I would say one of the biggest cautions I would give you is be careful who you're getting into partnership with. If you can have an opportunity to work with that person for a year or more and get to know that person and understand that person, then I might be a little more open to partnerships. Now, I will be completely blunt here. I'm for sale. Name your price. You want to buy my appraisal office? It's for sale. Everything is for sale, right? If the price is high, and you know what I mean. Some people are like, okay, Dustin, wait a second. Everything? You know what I'm talking about. My business is for sale. Now, I love my business, and it's a long-term solution for me. I don't have any intentions right now of selling my business, but if the price were right, if someone came in and said, Dustin, I'll give you X amount for your business today, I would take it. I'm not going to tell you what that X amount is, but it's quite high. I would take it. So would you. Come on. So, first of all, this isn't about necessarily the price. Everything has a price. But you've got to set it up in such a way that it's going to be a long-term solution for you. Now, sometimes that long-term solution is to sell and to move along. We call that tier 6, right? The business owner seller. And they move on to other things or another appraisal office or another form of valuation, whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is if you're going to do a partnership, you're in it for the long haul and you need to set it up for the long haul. So let's first talk about legalities. Folks, there are what's called general partnerships and limited partnerships. And the gist of it is this. By the way, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I want to get that out there. If you are going to do a partnership, and if you're doing personal coaching with me, I'm going to coach you along the same. I'm going to give you my advice, but in the end, I'm going to say consult an attorney, consult a CPA. Do this the right way. General partners are active partners. Okay, these are workers in the business. They're actively making sure the business is running. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're appraisers, but they are working in the business to make the business work and to make the business go. Okay, they might be their role might be working on the business, but the point is the key word here is they are working. Limited partners are passive. Okay, they've invested in a business, but they don't necessarily work in the business. In other words, this is the financial side that starts to come in, and you've got to decide what does that look like. Most people, when they think partnership, they think 50-50. That's just where our brain and where our head goes. But folks, there's many ways to set this up. There are partners that are 1% owners. And that works sometimes. Now, I will caution you, my experience has been, those of you who want to share the ownership with your employees, you'll find quite often that the way that you look at ownership versus the way that they look at ownership is very different. Now, there's exceptions to those rules, and that's why I say it's best to work with somebody for at least a year before you decide whether or not a partnership will work for you. Okay, so that's the legality side, that's the financial side. Let's talk about reality. I'm a big fan of an out clause. Meaning, I would get with an attorney and have built into the contract the ability for you to be able to get out of it. If you don't like the way it's working long term, do not get yourself stuck. Because reality is sometimes things don't work the way that you think they will work. Sometimes you can do everything right. You can work with that person for a year. You can say, we sure like each other. Let's go into a partnership. You set it up. You go through an attorney. You go through a CPA. Everything's done right. You feel good about things, and 18 months later, you want to kill each other. Make sure that you have an out. And it needs to be a fair out. The out shouldn't just be walking away and giving up your portion of the ownership. I've seen that happen more than once because they didn't set it up right in the first place. So bottom line, is Dustin for or against partnerships? I mean, if you held a gun to my head, I would say I'm against them for the most part. In the proper circumstance, in the proper situation, partnerships might work. Just do it right. Speaking of do it right and setting up your company the way that it should be, have you taken my Go Create Some Value workshop? Folks, right now it is on sale. It is on my website. You can find it on the products page. We have the Go Create Some Value workshop, which was the original Travel the Country workshop. And then the follow-up that is Go Remodel Your Appraisal Business. Really the appraisal business for the new world. Check them out. They're on my website, theappraisercoach.com. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.